I never thought this night would end with me sitting on my couch, replaying the exact words my best friend slurred out after his fifth shot of tequila. Dude, I think I want to try something. Something different. The kind of thing you can't just let slide off, especially when it comes from a guy who's been proclaiming he's straight since the day we met in college. To backtrack a little, I'm Alex, 28, and yeah, I've always been the gay best friend in the group. Never really a big deal, just kind of expected. My closest friend, Ryan, is this all-American, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy who's never given me a reason to question his orientation. He's the guy who's dated more girls than I can count, shared endless bro stories about his exes, and would give zero indication he was looking for anything outside that box. Until tonight. We were at this dive bar we both like downtown, the kind of place that's loud enough to drown out your own thoughts, but quiet enough that you can still hear the bartender bitch about his day. Ryan had been acting a little different all evening, more distracted, maybe a little nervous. We just wrapped up an argument about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. I was firmly team pineapple, obviously, and then he went off on this weird tangent about how he's been thinking about stuff, but couldn't really say it out loud. At first, I thought he was messing with me, because Ryan's the kind of guy who's always joking around, never serious when it comes to feelings or anything deep. But the way he looked at me, half embarrassed, half curious, made me pause. Then came the tequila shots, and the floodgates opened. "All right," he slurred, reaching for his glass like it was his life raft. "I've been thinking, maybe I want to try something new. Like, not with girls, just once, just to see." I froze. Not because I was shocked. I guess a little, but because suddenly the whole night shifted. The jokes, the loud music, the familiar bar smelled different. It was like watching a different version of Ryan unfold right in front of me. And here's where it gets complicated, because I was never sure if this was a joke, a drunken fantasy, or the beginning of something real. But deep down, I knew whatever it was the most honest I'd ever seen him. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Trying to figure out what happens next when your straight best friend gets drunk and drops a bomb like that. And honestly, I don't even know if I'm ready for the answer. I could tell he was serious, even if the tequila had blurred his words a bit. The thing was, I've known Ryan for years. We've shared everything from bad dates to job stress, but this was new territory. He looked vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen before, like he was about to step off a cliff but didn't know if I'd catch him or watch him fall. I leaned closer, lowering my voice even though the bar was already too loud. "Ryan, are you saying you want to try being with a guy? Like me?" He blinked, the words sinking in slower than I expected. "I know, man. I just thought maybe I should find out what it's about. You always talk about how great it is. Thought maybe it's time I give it a shot. Just once. No big deal." I swallowed hard. The idea of Ryan, my best friend, seeing me in that way was something I'd never really let myself imagine. It made my heart race, not because I was suddenly hoping for more, but because I cared about him that much. My brain kicked into overdrive. What if he's telling the truth? What if this changes everything between us? Before I could say anything, Ryan laughed nervously. "Hey, don't freak out. I'm drunk and probably going to regret this in the morning." But I just needed to say it out loud. I smiled, half to reassure him, half to calm my own nerves. "Hey, no judgment here. If you want to talk about it, I'm here. Always." He nodded, taking another sip. "Thanks, man. That means a lot." The rest of the night, the mood between us shifted. It wasn't awkward, exactly. More like a quiet understanding had settled in. We finished our drinks, and instead of our usual plan to hit another bar, Ryan suggested we just head back to my place. I didn't question it. Back at my apartment, he flopped onto the couch like a kid who'd just confessed his deepest secret and wasn't sure what to expect next. I grabbed a couple of water bottles, handing one to him. "Seriously, Ryan, whatever you want to do, we'll figure it out." "No pressure," I said. He looked at me, eyes clear despite the buzz. "I'm not sure what I want yet. Hell, I'm not even sure why I'm saying this now. But I trust you." That's new. I felt a warmth spread through my chest. Trust was huge, especially with someone who had spent so long being certain about one thing and now was questioning everything. We ended up talking for hours, not about closeness or relationships, but about fear and uncertainty, and how hard it was to be honest with yourself when people expect you to be a certain way. Ryan opened up about years of feeling trapped in this box he never wanted but couldn't break out of. I shared my own stories, times I'd hidden who I was and times I'd felt free. By the time sunlight started creeping through the blinds, we were both exhausted but lighter somehow. Ryan looked at me, this new openness in his eyes. "Maybe I don't have to figure it all out tonight," he said quietly. Yeah, I agreed. One step at a time. Neither of us mentioned the tequila talk again, but it hung in the air like a promise. Over the next few days, we kept texting, this new honesty threading between us. Ryan asked questions I hadn't expected, like what it was like to date guys, or how to even start exploring feelings that felt foreign. One afternoon, we grabbed coffee, and for the first time, I noticed how he stole glances at me when he thought I wasn't looking. There was something different in his smile, less teasing, more something I couldn't quite name yet. I wanted to be patient, to let Ryan find his way without pressure. But every time he smiled at me like that, my heart reminded me that sometimes, waiting was the hardest part. Still, I knew this was only the beginning. The night he got drunk and said he wanted to try something wasn't just a random moment. It was the start of a journey neither of us saw coming. And honestly, I wasn't sure where it would lead, but I knew I wanted to be there for every step. A week after that night, we found ourselves back at the same bar where Ryan had dropped his bombshell. This time, there was no tequila involved, just a couple of beers and a quiet buzz of nerves between us. Ryan was different now, more thoughtful, like he was peeling back layers of himself I hadn't seen before. So, I said, swirling my beer, "How's the trying new things thing going?" He chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Honestly, it's weird. I mean, I'm still figuring out what it even means to be attracted to a guy. Like, it's not just about closeness or whatever. It's more about connection." I don't know if that makes sense. It did, more than he realized. I nodded, trying to find the words to explain the strange mix of excitement and fear that comes with stepping into something unknown. "Yeah, it's like you have to unlearn a bunch of stuff you thought was true about yourself," I said, "and then relearn a whole new way of seeing things." He smiled, this time softer, almost shy. "That's exactly it." We talked like that for a while, about confusion, curiosity, and the pressure of expectations. Ryan admitted he'd never really questioned his close sexuality before, but now that he had, it was like this whole new world was opening up, and it was scary and thrilling all at once. Later that week, he texted me out of the blue. "Want to come over? I think I'm ready to talk more, maybe in person." I didn't hesitate. I showed up at his apartment that evening, and we ended up sitting on his couch, the city lights casting a gentle glow through the window. We talked for hours, and this time, the conversation got more personal, about what he wanted, what scared him, and what he was willing to try. At one point, he reached out, his hand brushing mine. It was subtle but electric. I didn't pull away. He looked at me, eyes wide, and whispered, "Is this okay?" I smiled, squeezed his hand gently. "Yeah, it's more than okay." That night, we didn't rush anything. No grand declarations or sudden moves. Just two friends exploring something new, carefully, honestly. The tension between us was real but comfortable, like we were both learning how to be vulnerable in a way that felt safe. Over the next few weeks, things shifted slowly but unmistakably. Ryan started opening up more about his feelings, his doubts, and his hopes. We went on walks, cooked dinner together, and stayed up late watching old movies, talking about everything and nothing. The more time we spent together, the more I saw him. Not just as my best friend, but as someone who might be becoming something more. One evening, we were lying on the floor of my apartment, sharing a bottle of wine and talking about childhood dreams. Ryan laughed, then got serious. "You know, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad I told you that night. It scared the hell out of me, but it's also been the best thing to happen to me in a long time." I reached over and tucked a stray lock of hair behind his ear. "Me too." He looked at me, the kind of look that made my heart skip a beat. "So, what now?" I shrugged, grinning. "We take it one day at a time. No pressure, no expectations, just whatever feels right." Ryan nodded, leaning into me. "Yeah, I like that." And in that moment, with the city humming outside, and his head resting on my shoulder. I realized that sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected places, and the bravest thing you can do is just be honest with yourself, because now there was no going back. We were on this journey together, and honestly, I couldn't wait to see where it took us. After that night on the couch, something shifted between us in a way I hadn't dared hope for. Not in a sudden, movie-style, we're officially a couple now kind of way, but in these quiet moments that felt like we were building something new, brick by brick. Ryan started texting me more, not just the usual what's up stuff, but deeper questions. Like, one afternoon he messaged, "How do you know if you're really into someone? Not just curious, but like, actually into them." I paused before answering, because I wanted to say all the right things without sounding like a cheesy dating coach. Finally, I wrote back, "It's different for everyone, but for me it's about wanting to be around them, not just physically, but emotionally. Like, you want to share your day, your thoughts, your dumb jokes, and feel like they really get you." A couple of minutes later, he replied, "That sounds scary but good." It was that kind of honesty between us that made me realize how much Ryan was letting down his walls. Walls he'd probably been building since forever. And I was there, just waiting, not pushing, trying to be the kind of friend who could hold space for all the confusion and hope he was feeling. One weekend, he invited me out to a small party his coworker was throwing. I could tell he was nervous about it, so I made sure to show up early. When I got to his place, he was pacing around in a hoodie, looking like someone trying to psych himself up. "You sure about this?" I asked. He shrugged, eyes darting around. "I don't know. I want to see what it's like to be out. You know, not just with you, but I'm terrified." I smiled, grabbing his hand. "You're not alone. I'm right here." At the party, Ryan stuck close to me, introducing me as his friend. But the way he glanced at me sometimes, like I was the anchor in a sea of strangers, made me realize how much this meant to him. People were friendly, the music was good, but I could tell Ryan was trying to figure out where he fit in all this. Later, we ended up in the kitchen, away from the crowd. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I think some of them can tell I'm new at this. Like, they expect me to be cool and confident, but I'm just figuring it out. I squeezed his shoulder. Everyone starts somewhere. It's okay to be new. And honestly, you're doing better than most. He laughed softly, then looked at me with those open, searching eyes. "Thanks for sticking with me, Alex. Seriously." I'm lucky. I wanted to tell him I felt the same, but the words got caught in my throat. Instead, I nodded and smiled. The next few weeks were a mix of highs and lows. Ryan would have moments of clarity where he seemed more himself than ever, and then days where he'd pull back, overwhelmed by everything. I tried to be patient, understanding that this wasn't a race or a checklist. It was messy and beautiful and terrifying all at once. One evening, we were watching a movie at my place when Ryan suddenly turned to me, his expression serious. "Can I ask you something?" "Shoot." "Have you ever been scared that you'd lose someone if things got complicated? Like, what if this changes everything between us?" I thought about it. About the long nights, the laughs, the trust we'd built. Yeah, I have. But I also think if we're too scared of that, we miss out on something real. He nodded slowly, eyes searching mine. "I don't want to lose this." "Or you." "You won't," I promised. That night, as I walked him to his car, the air between us felt charged with something both new and familiar. We stood there, neither wanting to say goodbye just yet. Before he got in, Ryan reached out and pulled me into a hug that was warm and tentative, like he was testing the waters. I wrapped my arms around him, holding on a little longer than usual. When we finally pulled apart, he smiled shyly. "Maybe trying something new isn't so scary after all," I grinned back. "Nope. Sometimes it's the best thing you ever do." And as he drove away, I realized that whatever came next, we were stepping into it together, uncertain, a little scared, but ready. Because sometimes the most unexpected truths are the ones worth chasing. After that night, things between Ryan and me started to feel less like a tightrope walk and more like a slow dance. Sometimes awkward steps, other times perfectly in sync. We weren't rushing, but the undercurrent of something unspoken was always there, just beneath the surface. One Saturday, I got a text from him that simply said, "Want to come over? Got something to show you." That was classic Ryan, cryptic but promising. I grabbed my jacket and headed over. When I arrived, he was waiting outside, a little nervous energy bubbling around him. "All right, so I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about being honest and all that," he said as we walked up to his apartment. And I realized I want to try going out openly. No hiding, no half-truths. I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. "That's huge, man." "Proud of you," he shrugged, cheeks flushed. "I'm also terrified, but I think it's time." Inside, he pulled out his phone and showed me a dating app, one I'd used before. "I made a profile," he admitted. "I didn't post any pictures yet, just the basics. Thought maybe we could do that together?" I grinned. "Hell yeah, let's make you look irresistible." We spent the next hour laughing and debating over profiles and photos, Ryan awkwardly navigating the process while I tried not to embarrass him too much. But there was something genuine in his willingness to explore, to take these steps even when it scared him. Afterward, we went out for a late dinner at that little taco place we both loved. Over greasy food and cheap beer, Ryan surprised me. "You know, I never thought I'd be here, doing this with you. It's weird, but also feels right." "That's because it is," I said, reaching for his hand across the table. The contact was electric, but he didn't pull away. We spent the next few days texting, sometimes about silly things, sometimes about deeper stuff. How he felt when he swiped right for the first time, what it meant to open himself up to a possibility he hadn't considered before. One night, he called me, voice shaking just a bit. I matched with someone. I could hear the nervous excitement in his words. "That's awesome. Want to talk about it?" "Yeah, it's just different. I don't know how to act. What if I mess this up?" I laughed softly. "You won't. Just be you." "That's enough." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Thanks, Alex, for being here, for everything." The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of firsts, first dates, first butterflies, first awkward conversations about labels and expectations. Ryan was growing into this new version of himself, and I was lucky enough to watch it happen. But beneath the surface, I was wrestling with my own feelings. I cared about Ryan, more than a friend should, maybe. Every time he described a date or smiled at a text, my heart twisted in a way I couldn't ignore. I wanted to tell him, but I was terrified it would ruin what we had. One evening, after a particularly good date for him, we met up at my place. Ryan was glowing, full of stories and laughter, and I was happy for him, really happy. As he talked, I realized I couldn't keep it in anymore. The words were stuck in my throat, but I forced them out. "Ryan, I need to be honest with you. He stopped mid-sentence, his eyes searching mine. "You okay?" I took a deep breath. "I like you, not just as a friend. I have for a while." The room went quiet. Ryan blinked, then smiled softly. "I kinda hoped you'd say that," he admitted, "because I think I like you too." More than I expected. It was like the ground shifted beneath us. But instead of fear, there was relief and something tender and real. We spent the night talking about what this meant, about fears and hopes, about taking it slow but also being open to what could be. That night, when he left, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Because sometimes the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most beautiful stories. And ours was just getting started. After that night, everything felt different, like we'd stepped through a door and couldn't go back. But it wasn't some dramatic, instant change. It was subtle, the way our conversations got quieter but deeper, the way our touches lingered a little longer, the way the space between us seemed charged with possibilities. Ryan was still figuring himself out, and so was I. I was trying to be patient, but every time he smiled at me or reached for my hand, my heart did this stupid happy dance that I couldn't control. One evening, we decided to hang out at his place. We ordered pizza, drank cheap beer, and played video games. Classic us, but there was this different energy, like we both knew things were shifting beneath the surface. Midway through the night, Ryan paused the game and looked over at me. "Alex, can I ask you something kind of serious?" "Shoot," I said, trying to sound casual even though my stomach was suddenly doing flips. He hesitated, then said, "How do you handle it? You know, the whole coming out thing and dating someone you've known forever? What if it messes everything up?" I thought about it. It's scary, no lie, but it's also worth it if you're honest with yourself. And yeah, it might change things, but it can change them for the better. You just have to be ready to communicate and trust that the other person's got your back. Ryan nodded slowly, like he was absorbing every word. "I want that. I want us to work. I just don't want to lose you." "You won't," I said softly, reaching out to squeeze his hand. "Whatever happens, I'm here." That night, when Ryan leaned in and kissed me for the first time, it wasn't perfect or polished. It was tentative, a little clumsy, but full of all the things we'd been too scared to say. And it felt like home. The days that followed were a mix of excitement and nerves. We started spending more time together, not just as best friends, but as something new. Holding hands in public felt like a small rebellion, and every text from him made my heart race. But it wasn't all easy. Ryan wrestled with his own doubts and fears, sometimes pulling away when the vulnerability got too real. I never pushed, just let him know I was there when he was ready. One afternoon, we went hiking up in the hills. The air was crisp, and the city sprawled beneath us. We sat on a rock, catching our breath, and Ryan turned to me. "Alex, I've been thinking a lot about us, about what this means. And honestly, it scares me, but it also feels right. Like, maybe this is what I've been missing." I smiled, heart swelling. "I feel the same." He reached out, fingers intertwining with mine. "I don't have all the answers. Hell, I barely know what I'm doing, but I want to try. With you." "Me too," I said, leaning my head on his shoulder. We stayed there for a while, watching the sunset, wrapped up in each other and the quiet promise of what was to come. Over the next few months, we navigated this new relationship, learning how to be partners, how to support each other, how to love without all the answers. Ryan's journey wasn't linear. There were moments of doubt, but also breakthroughs that made it all worth it. One night, as we lay tangled in my bed, Ryan whispered, "Thank you for being patient with me, for believing in us." I kissed his forehead. "Thank you for trusting me. I'm lucky to have you." And in that moment, I knew that sometimes the best love stories aren't about grand gestures or perfect timing. They're about two people brave enough to face the unknown together, step by step, hand in hand. Living with Ryan's newfound openness was like watching a slow sunrise. Gradual, beautiful, sometimes clouded by shadows, but undeniably moving forward. We weren't just navigating a relationship. We were charting a course through parts of ourselves neither of us had fully explored before. One afternoon, a couple of months in, Ryan invited me over to his place for dinner. I knew he was nervous because when I arrived, he was pacing around the kitchen, stirring a pot of pasta sauce like it was some kind of high-stakes experiment. "Hey, chef," I teased, setting down my jacket. "What's the occasion?" He looked up, cheeks flushed. "Just wanted to cook for you. Show you I'm serious about this." His eyes held a mix of excitement and vulnerability that made my heart skip a beat. We sat down to eat, and the conversation drifted from work to silly childhood memories, to the awkwardness of first dates, and then, inevitably, to us. "Alex," he said, voice quieter now, "do you ever worry about how people will react? About what your family or friends might say if they knew?" I thought about the countless times I'd come out, been judged, or felt the sting of misunderstanding. Yeah, it's scary, but I learned that the people who matter will accept you, and if they don't, then screw them. Ryan nodded slowly. "I want to be honest with everyone someday, but right now, I'm still working on being honest with myself." That kind of honesty was one of the things I loved most about him. The willingness to face his fears head on, even if it meant stumbling along the way. A few weeks later, we decided to go on a weekend trip to the coast. Neither of us had done anything like this as a couple before, and the idea of escaping the city felt like a breath of fresh air. The beach was chilly, but we didn't care. We walked along the shore, shoes in hand, the waves lapping at our ankles. Ryan reached for my hand without thinking, and I squeezed it, feeling that familiar warmth spread through me. At one point, He stopped and looked out at the ocean. Alex, can I be honest about something? Always. I'm terrified about what comes next, about what this all means. But I also know I don't want to go back to pretending or hiding parts of myself. I pulled him close. You don't have to be scared. We're in this together. He smiled, resting his head on my shoulder. Thanks for being patient with my messiness. Hey, messiness included, I said, laughing. I'm not going anywhere. Back in the city, things started to feel more real. Ryan introduced me to some of his friends, and while it was nerve-wracking for both of us, it was also a step forward. One night, over pizza and beer at my place, Ryan said, "You know what? I think I'm maybe ready to tell my family." I almost choked on my beer. Seriously? He nodded, a little sheepishly. Yeah, I want them to know the real me. And I want you to be part of that. My heart raced. The idea of meeting his family was huge, but also incredibly meaningful. We'll take it slow, I assured him. One step at a time. The day he told them was nerve-wracking, filled with long pauses and careful explanations. But when he called me afterward, his voice was lighter, braver. They were surprised, he said, but they loved me, and they want to meet you. That night, as I sat beside him, I felt like we'd crossed a milestone. It wasn't about approval or acceptance. It was about being seen, truly seen, by the people who mattered. Our relationship wasn't perfect. We had disagreements, moments of doubt, and insecurities that bubbled up in unexpected ways. But every time we faced those challenges, we came back to the same place: trust, patience, and love. One rainy evening, as we curled up on the couch, Ryan looked at me and said, "Do you ever think about how we got here? From best friends to this?" I smiled, brushing a damp strand of hair from his forehead. "Yeah, it's been a wild ride." He laughed softly. "The tequila talk seems like a lifetime ago." "Funny how one drunken confession can change everything," I said. He nodded, eyes shining. And I wouldn't change a thing. As the rain tapped against the window, I realized that this journey, full of uncertainty, courage, and laughter, was exactly where I was meant to be. With Ryan, navigating the unknown, one step at a time. Months had passed since Ryan told his family, and with each day, the distance between best friends and something more seemed to shrink. Not because of some grand gesture, but because of the countless small moments we shared. Like waking up to his sleepy smile, or the way he always made me coffee just how I liked it, or how we'd get lost in conversation about nothing and everything all at once. One quiet Sunday afternoon, we were sitting on the couch, sunlight filtering through the windows, the kind of lazy day that felt like a pause from the world. Ryan was fiddling with a photo album, a collection of pictures from our trip to the coast, nights out, goofy selfies. He looked up at me and said softly, "You know, I never imagined things turning out like this. Me, figuring things out with you, by my side. It's better than I thought it could be." I smiled, brushing my fingers over his hand. Neither did I, but I'm glad we took that chance, even if it was a little scary. He laughed, that warm, easy laugh I'd come to love. Yeah, scary as hell, but worth it. There was a comfortable silence as we sat together, no need for words. Then Ryan shifted, turning to face me fully. "Alex," he said, voice steady, "thank you for sticking with me when I was lost and confused, for being patient when I was scared, for showing me what it means to be seen and to see someone in return." I felt my throat tighten. "You don't have to thank me. I'm lucky to have you." He smiled, eyes shining, and leaned in just a little closer. Our foreheads touched, and in that simple gesture, everything we'd been through, the doubts, the fears, the late-night talks, felt like it all led to this moment. "We don't have to have it all figured out," I whispered. "We just have to be honest, with ourselves and with each other." Ryan nodded, his breath warm against my face. "Yeah, one step at a time." As the afternoon light faded, I realized the story we were writing wasn't about labels or timelines. It was about two people finding their way to each other, imperfect but real. And That was more than enough. I squeezed his hand, feeling a quiet kind of joy settle in my chest. No matter what came next, I knew we'd face it together. Because sometimes, the best kind of love isn't the fireworks or the grand declarations. It's this steady, unwavering presence of someone who chooses you every day. And for me, that someone was Ryan.